Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today's video is going to be another match reaction. This time it's to Leeds winning 2-0 away at St Mary's.
Rafinha, first time ball to Bamford. Bamford in the penalty area on the left foot. Oh, what a finish from Patrick Bamford!
So, as we always do, let's have a look at the lineup to start with. Before the squad was even announced, we knew earlier in the week that Matthias Klick and Robin Koch have been allowed to return to their home countries in preparation for the Euros, so that they obviously don't pick up any more injuries, which I am very surprised at, to be honest. I wouldn't think that it was the sort of thing that Bielsa would really want to happen or allow to happen. But as there's nothing to play for, as they say, there's no actual... Maybe there is. Maybe you just trust that the squad is good enough to cope with these two games, and as proved tonight, yeah, it is. We were very good in the second half, but we'll get to that. Kiko, I was driving home from work before the game, so I didn't really get to see the build-up and the squad announcement, but I got in the door just as the game kicked off, and I turned the TV on and Kiko's in net, and I'm like, oh no. But he didn't concede today. He did have a fair few dodgy moments, but he didn't concede, so we can't hold that against him today. Rodrigo earned his starting place after his 2 goals against Burnley, so Tyler Roberts lost his spot and Rodrigo played in that number 8, attacking 8 role. And Cooper came back in actually for Struijk, which at the start I thought was a little bit unfair, given how well Struijk has been playing. That's another one, like I said, with the FA Cup final, where it was somebody just tell us how to pronounce it properly. But maybe Marcelo always planned to swap Calvin out when he did for Pascal Struijk. The first 5 minutes were very sloppy from Leeds, to be honest. It was we've started a few games a bit like that this season, and honestly, the only other game where I can compare it very accurately to this is the other game against Southampton. Obviously, Hasenhüttl thought he'd got the early tactics right in that game, because they came out the blocks exactly the same, all pressing very high up, forcing us into some mistakes, and we were very sloppy with our passing. It was mainly the passing, to be honest. We just kept giving it away to them every time we actually got on the ball. Everybody was guilty of it, to be honest. Everybody was playing poor passes, and nothing really stuck at anyone's feet. So the first 5-10 minutes was a little bit like, oh my god, we're playing awfully here. In the second 10 minutes, Leeds started to get on the ball a little bit more. But there wasn't really any chances. We didn't create much. We didn't create anything, to be honest, really, in those first 20 minutes. It was a little bit of Southampton domination and us really sort of trying to play our way back into the game, really. It took us a good 20 minutes to actually get on the ball, and even then, by the end of the first half, we hadn't played fantastically well. The only 2 real sort of good chances in that half were the one where Dallas chested it down on the edge of the box after a Leeds player nodded it back to him, and he just hit it just wide with his left foot, which obviously is his weak foot, and given he's been in quite prolific form this season, I think we can let him off with one of those. But yeah, that could have been a good chance to go 1-0 up, but then it would have been a very good finish to have actually scored there. And the only other good chance of the half, I say good chance, it was probably Southampton's best chance of that half, was the one where it was squared to Che Adams on the edge of the box, and he sort of tried to curl a low shot, and Kiko Casilla dived low and tipped it around the post. He got a strong hand to it. I don't know if he really needed to tip it around the post. It was one of them where he's probably thinking better safe than sorry, given how dodgy he is at times. But that was it, really. First half, very non-eventful. An uneventful non-event, we'll go with. Yeah, it's just one of those that just goes by really fast because nothing's really happened, and you're like, oh, is that half-time already? And literally nothing's happened. So from that first half, those two chances mainly. And like I say, I just felt at half time that we just needed to get on the ball a bit more, try and make it stick, and trying to get a little bit more support for those forward players, because we seem to be trying to come out, losing the ball, and then having it come back at us again. So Bamford, Rafinha and Harrison never really had anything to hold on to. So yeah, that's what I was thinking at half time. But at half time, we made 2 changes and they waited 1 change. So their change was Ings came on for Adams, a straight swap up front. So we've got that one out of the way. For us, Strout came on for Phillips. Phillips was on a yellow card, so maybe that was why. Maybe also Bielsa's trying to save him a little bit for the Euros and try and get Pascal some experience in that role. But the most important one was Gaetano Berardi got back in the team. Gaetano Berardi is now a Premier League defender. He got his chance. He came in. He didn't put a foot out of line. Didn't put a foot out of line, to be honest. He came in for Diego Llorente, who had an okay first half. He'd had a few battles with some players, namely probably Ward-Prowse in the midfield. But yeah, with Berardi came on, he didn't put a foot wrong really. He didn't have much really to do, but what he did do, he did right, and he played well, yeah. But it was just, to be honest, it was just nice to see him back in the team. Hopefully he maybe gets a game in the last game of the season, and so does Pablo. And imagine if they both scored, that'd be a send off and a half, wouldn't it? To be honest, I don't know what the situation is with Berardi. I don't know whether he's moving on, or I know that he'll be out of contract because he only signed a 1-year deal, but it's more Pablo maybe that we need to get him one of those, get him that goal against West Brom to really send him off, because it does look like he'll be on the way out. In the 46th minute, we gave away a free kick on the edge of our box, which is never good against Southampton because we know how good James Ward-Prowse is at free kicks, and he did bend it over the wall and it hit the top of the crossbar. On first look at it, it looked like Kiko Casilla had it covered, and I would have said, okay, well, yeah, if that had been in the top corner though, Kiko's hand was there. We saw it from another angle later in the game on a replay, and we saw it from sort of behind the free kick taker, from behind Ward-Prowse. But when he bent it over the wall, it did hit that upright between the crossbar and the post, and Kiko did dive and have his hand in that area, but he had his hand in that area like a second after the ball had gone. So somehow Kiko Casillas seems to dive really slowly. I noticed with that first one where I mentioned about the Che Adams shot, where he sort of dived and tipped around the post, he just seems to like move in slow motion sometimes, which is a bit worrying. But yeah, that was a good chance for them, but like I say, crossbar and behind. Not long after that, we had that Dallas chance where it bounced to him on the right hand side, just outside their box, and he absolutely whacked one on the volley, and Alex McCarthy had to make a very good diving save to tip it around the post. But I tell you what a strike that was. After that, we just started to dominate really. We had a lot of chances. We had the one where Bamford was in the box and he'd gone a bit too wide. After Rodrigo had slipped him in, he'd gone a little bit too wide and was sort of like facing up the keeper with the goal here. So he was no way he was going to score that, and he tried to shoot. But if he'd have waited a millisecond longer, Rafinha dropped back a few yards and had peeled off the defenders. So if Bamford had squared it, but I think when Bamford noticed that, he'd already sort of decided to shoot and his leg was already swinging at it. So maybe in another game, Bamford takes a second longer to make that decision, and Rafinha gets the tap in. But yeah, we had a few good chances like that. About 7 minutes after that good chance, Bamford's pretty much on his own in their half after they have a corner, and we clear long to him. And he's in behind the defence, and he takes it round the keeper, and the keeper gets... It's sort of his armpit and chest hits Bamford's leg, right, when he's running through. If Bamford goes to ground there, then that's a penalty. But because Bamford is as honest as they come, he stayed on his feet and tried to play with the ball and tried to take it take it and then curl it back in. Vestergaard got back and tackled him wide. That is when VAR is needed. That is a perfect use case for VAR. The player is honest and he doesn't go down when somebody touches him in the box. And it wasn't just a touch, it nearly tripped him over. You could see that he stumbled from it. So therefore it's affecting his stride and affecting his opportunity to shoot. So that would be a penalty. VAR should go and look at that and say, okay, he's actually affected his stride then. He's stopped him being able to... He might have been able to swing his right foot at it if he hadn't have stumbled at that point. So VAR should then go and look at it and say, okay, yeah, that's a penalty. We'll give it to them. Wasn't given. And that's something that definitely needs to be improved for next season, because for me, that's definitely a penalty. About 3 minutes after that, Bamford has his head injury. So if you didn't see the game, basically a ball was crossed into the box. Bamford sort of stumbled, but as he stumbled, Salisu, their left back, turned round, and he's a big lad, a big sort of like well-built lad. And Bamford turned and just sort of tripped and fell full on into his, like, the bony part of his shoulder there. And Bamford was down for a good 3 or 4, 5 minutes maybe. And it was suspected that he had concussion. Easy for me to say. I seem to be saying that every video now. In the 69th minute, Teller came off. He's a young lad that scored his debut goal last week for them against Fulham. And he'd been working very hard on that press all game. Obviously what Hasenhüttl had told him, but he's a young lad and he'd worked his absolute pan out, and Hasenhüttl could see that he was tiring, so he came off and Redmond came on to sort of do that role. 4 minutes after that, we're sort of on the edge of the box. Rodrigo just dinks a lovely ball over the top of the defenders for Bamford to run onto. Bamford's on the right hand side of the box, inside the box. It bounces once, it bounces twice, and he's at almost the same angle. He's almost on the touchline with the goalkeeper, and he's almost at the same angle as that one that he should have passed before. But McCarthy sort of, I don't know if he thought it was going out or what, but it bounced. It bounced again, and Bamford just got a little bit of an outside of the foot left, little flick on it almost, and it hit McCarthy between the legs, bounced underneath him and went in somehow. So he nutmegged the keeper. I think Graham Smith, if you don't know who Graham Smith is, he works for the Yorkshire Evening Post. He was tweeting through the game and he said, nutmegs count double, don't they? But in the end, we didn't really need that to count double, because we scored another goal in injury time. We'll come to that in a bit. In the 76th minute, Walcott came off for another young player for them, Diallo, the young French midfielder, and Rodrigo came off for us. He looked a bit upset, to be honest, that he'd come off, because he was having a very good game, but maybe he just needed a little bit of a rest, or I don't know, but Tyler Roberts came on for him. In the 84th minute, Rafinha scored, but he was offside. Well, no, actually, Bamford was offside, squared it to Rafinha, Rafinha scored. But we were getting in those positions and getting very good goal-scoring opportunities as the game started to be stretched, because, like I say, Southampton were trying to push then to try and get an equaliser. In the 91st minute, we had a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment where the ball was flicked to Ings on the edge of the box. He took a nice little touch with his left foot. Maybe? One of his feet that he's got on his legs. He took a touch and it bounced and he span and hit one on the volley. And it did, in the end, go quite wide. But from the angle we saw it on the TV, it looked like it was flying in the top corner. So that was a very good strike. But it wasn't quite on target. I've just remembered to talk about Kiko, actually. Like I was saying before, he didn't let anything in, so he kept a clean sheet, but he's very unconvincing, like really unconvincing. I think there was probably 3 occasions in which he came out for corners, came out far too far and just completely flapped at it. And I don't know whether he doesn't know when and if he should come out for corners, but he's absolutely dreadful at them. Like he just flaps at it completely. You feel so much more assured with Meslier there because he knows when to stay and he knows when to go, and he's got 10 years less experience than Kiko, maybe more. So it's a bit embarrassing really, and honestly, it's time for him to go. I think if some sort of Spanish second division team could take him off our hands, then that'd be ideal really. I mean, even if he goes for not very much money at all, at least you get the wages off our books, and maybe we could get a backup for Meslier, another young promising keeper or something. We've got Ilya Capriel in the youth academy, but I don't think Bielsa feels that he's ready to step up to that mantle yet, because he's only, well, I say he's only like 18, 19, but Meslier is only 21, so yeah, it doesn't really make much difference in Bielsa's mind, I don't think. In the 94th minute, we counter-attack again. The ball falls to Bamford, who absolutely whacks one. Alex McCarthy saves it out to the edge of the box, and Tyler Roberts finally in the second to last game of the season, he just strokes it very calmly in that bottom corner, and you could see how much it meant to him when he scored that. He was absolutely buzzing. He was giving it the proper proper screaming, because he must have been so frustrated this season. He's had a lot of critics, but the lad's only like 22 and he plays some very good stuff. He's starting to come up with a little bit more end product in terms of his passing, and he just needs to add goals to his game. And we know he's capable of it, because there was that game against Hull. I can't even remember if it was last season or the season before last where he scored a couple. But we know he's got that in him. He's just maybe lacking a bit of confidence this season. But like I say, he just stroked it in the bottom corner like it was nothing, like he'd been doing it all his life, scoring 20 goals a season. It was very calm, very collected, and I'm just buzzing for him, to be honest. I hope we keep him, because it could just be that he's had a little bit of a plateau in his development, and maybe now next season he pushes on and gets even better, because like I say, he's only young, so I think we're expecting rather a lot of him for really what we should be. But yeah, Strike went off actually at the end with a lower back injury, so I don't know what that was about, but he didn't even come back on. We just played with 10 men for the last 30 seconds, so maybe he's done himself a bit of a mischief there, but hopefully it's nothing too serious. Now, on Sunday, we play our last game of the season against West Brom with fans in the stadium. It's going to be a big one, just because, well, it depends on the results through the rest of the week, to be honest, because if Everton lose and West Ham lose a couple of games, there's a very outside chance that we could qualify for the Europa League. Now, I'm not expecting it to happen. If it did, it'd be amazing. I'm not expecting it to happen, but there is a very slim chance that it could. I just want to win on Sunday. I just want to win regardless. I just want to put West Brom in the place. We've already secured our top 10 finish, so Villa can't overtake us now. We are top 10 this season. And I just want Pablo to score. If he could score in under a minute or whatever he did, like he did against West Brom in the Championship, then that'd be ideal. But yeah, I want Pablo to score, and I want Berardi to get a bit more game time as well. But that's going to be it for this video. You'll see me next time with a match reaction to that, and then after that there'll be, like I've mentioned in other videos, Euros content and more to come really. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you after the West Brom game on Sunday.